Hello friends and welcome to CEC online lectures. So in the previous lecture we learnt about job design that essentially involves integrating job responsibilities and certain qualifications that an employee must possess to perform these jobs. And it outlines the job responsibilities very clearly and also helps in attracting the right candidate for the right job. Further, it also makes the job look more interesting and specialized. So, the main purpose of job design is to optimize work processes, ensure the right value is created, and improve productivity. And it does by clarifying roles, systems, and procedures, by reducing repetitive elements within and between jobs, and definitely optimizing the worker's responsibility. So, job design is an important element of people strategy as it influences how well organized the work is, how fulfilling and motivating employees find their work, what opportunities employees have to develop their skills and progress, whether the workloads are sustainable and healthy. So, the answer to all these questions is job design. So, job design is thus a central component of job quality that benefits those who are doing the job as well as the organization's long term growth and sustainability. Also, learned about the various methods of doing so. We learned of various methods of job design like job simplification, job rotation, job enrichment, job enlargement, and we learned all these methods along with their advantages and disadvantages. So, whatever method we are choosing will have certain advantages as well as certain disadvantages, and the organization has to see which method they would like to select or like to implement. So today, moving further in the job design series, today we are going to learn of the factors that affect job design. So we are primarily going to learn of three factors: organizational, environmental, and behavioral factors. And secondly, we are going to learn of some issues in job design. So what are those current issues or contemporary issues in job design? So coming to the first part, that is the factors affecting job design, the first one being the organizational factors. So organizational factors are four, namely characteristics of task, the workflow, the ergonomics, and the work practices. So as far as the characteristics of task are concerned, well, job design requires an assembly of a number of tasks into a job or a group of jobs. An individual may carry out one main task which consists of a number of interrelated functions, or there may be a split so that the task functions may be split between a team working closely together. So either you are entirely performing all the interrelated functions of one task, or that one task may be split between people who are working together. Then there are the internal structure of each task consists of three elements, that is planning, which means that deciding the course of action, the timing and the resources required. The second internal structure consists of executing, that is carrying out the plan. And third is the controlling, that is monitoring the performance and taking corrective action whenever required. Now, all these aspects, that is planning, executing, and controlling, they have to be taken into consideration while you are designing a job. So, the second aspect is workflow. What does workflow mean? Well, it means the flow of work in a firm, because it is strongly influenced by the nature of product or service. The product or service usually suggests the sequence and balance between jobs if the work is to be done efficiently. So every job has a particular sequence that is to be done, right? So though that sequence at all times have to be maintained. So if that sequence is not maintained, you cannot perform your job in a proper manner. Then apart from the sequence, the balance of all those activities, all those interrelated activities also has to be maintained while performing. So that is the workflow. So while designing the job, you must know the workflow, that is the sequence and the balance between the jobs. The third aspect or the third factor is ergonomics. This is a very emerging trend and a very relevant topic of discussion. Well, ergonomics is concerned with designing and shaping jobs to fit the physical abilities and characteristics of employees. So we are, trying to match the physical abilities of the employee along with the job. Now, here the nature of the job remains the same. We are not altering the job per se, but the location of tools, the switches, and other facilities, all the facilities that are required to perform that job, they are changed to make the job holder feel more comfortable. So you don't have to run and keep on finding where to find my tools. So all these things are arranged meticulously so that you can perform your job in a better manner, more efficiently. Then ergonomics has become more relevant because employees stay in the workforce longer, for longer duration of time, and also the jobs today are altered to meet their changing physical needs. And its relevance is also felt more now because of the need to accommodate individuals with physical disabilities. So, when people with disabilities are working, you must ensure that they are able to perform, they are comfortable, and apart from their performance, the core of the job design is that he or she must be made comfortable while they are performing their job. So, while designing the jobs, ergonomics come into action when we are dealing with people with physical disabilities. Now, according to Jeremy Stranks, these are some of the four, we can say, four elements of ergonomics. These are the human system, the working environment, the man machine interface, and lastly, the total working system. So, let's learn about each one of them. Well, the human characteristics include the physical aspects like the stamina, the strength, body dimensions, psychological attributes like perception, learning, and reaction, etc. So, what all human characteristics are there? The second most important aspect of ergonomics is the working environment, which means the which definitely has a significant effect on worker performance, and these attributes are like temperature, humidity, lighting, noise, ventilation. So if you have to work in a very high or very low temperature, that will affect your performance. If you have to work in very high or very low humid conditions, then that will also affect your performance. Similarly, if you have to work in very dim light, your performance will be reduced, your morale will be reduced. So proper lighting has to be there, temperature, humidity, lighting, all these things have to be controlled, and these things have to be kept into mind while you are designing the jobs. The next is the man machine interface, and that includes the controls, displays, communicators, and automation, because each of these, it impacts the worker comfort and the performance considerably. So we have to take in consideration all these aspects. The next is the total working system. It includes factors such as the potential for fatigue and stress. So you have to identify all the potential factors that can cause fatigue and stress among the employees, and we must try to take these factors out of the job. And also specific health and safety features are also considered, particularly the effects of operator errors. So these things have to be kept in mind while you are designing jobs. The next is the work practices. So, what are work practices? These are basically the methods or standards laid out for carrying out a certain task. And these practices often affect job design, especially when practices are not aligned to the interests of the unions. So, here is where the organizational culture also comes into action. because culture basically decides as to how people are going to practice, how people are going to behave in an organization. So work practices also are very crucial while designing the jobs. The second factors are the environmental factors. So environment, we all know, affect each and every job, and environmental factors affect the job design to a considerable extent. And these factors include both internal as well as external factors. And these factors are like employee skills and abilities and their availability, and their socio-economic and cultural prospects. So let's learn what each of them means. Well, employee abilities and availability, it means that what are the skills available right now. So employee skills, availabilities, and the time of availability, they play a crucial role while designing the jobs. Therefore, considerable thought must be given as to who will actually do the work. So while designing a job, it is more demanding. So jobs that are more demanding and the required skill set is more than the available will lead to decreased productivity and employee satisfaction. So if the job is highly demanding and because it demands high level of skills, but the available skill sets are not that high, so what will happen is that the productivity will not be the up to the mark, that whatever we want to achieve we will not be able to achieve, because the skills required are not, we can say, they do not match up to the required skill set. So here the required and the available, the gap is there. So whenever that gap is there, the productivity will fall, and the employees morale and their satisfaction will also fall. So the next aspect is the socio-economic and cultural expectations. So we all are aware today that jobs are becoming more employee centric rather than process centric. So they are therefore designed keeping the employees into consideration. And in addition, today we also feel that the literacy level among the employees is also on the rise. So they are more demanding, and they now demand jobs that fulfill not only their socio-economic but their cultural expectations also. So they are not only working to have a higher economic level or a greater social acceptance, but they also want their cultural expectations to be fulfilled. So when designing jobs for international operation, so when this is another very important aspect of designing jobs when you're dealing with international operations, because today we have a multinational culture that organize due to globalization. There are multinational organizations. So if a company is one company, one branch is in say London, one is in US, another is in India, so there will be cultural differences. So while you are designing jobs, you must keep all the factors like hours of work, holidays, vacations, rest breaks, their religious beliefs of people, the management styles, because as management students, you must be aware that the management style of US, Europe, India, or Asia are different. The employees' attitudes toward work are, we can say, is different. So these all attributes must be taken into consideration while you are designing jobs, right? And the failure to consider these social expectations can create dissatisfaction, low motivation, difficulty in filling vacancies, and surely a low quality of work life. So the third factor we will discuss is the behavioral factors. So behavioral factors also affect the job design. How? So behavioral factors or human factors are those that pertain to human need and that need to be satisfied for ensuring productivity at workplace. So what includes in behavioral factors is like autonomy, like diversity, like feedback, use of abilities, etc. And this is specifically more important when individuals with higher level needs are hired for jobs, because individuals inspired by higher level needs, they find jobs challenging and satisfying only when these aspects like autonomy, diversity, they are uh, highly done, or they are present in their jobs. An average employee might not want autonomy, but an individual with higher level needs will definitely want autonomy, will definitely want diversity in whatever jobs he is doing. He will definitely go for the feedback so that he can improve. But an average employee is not bothered about the feedback. He is satisfied with whatever he is doing or performing, right? So these things have to be kept in mind while designing the jobs. So, what is autonomy? Well, autonomy is the freedom to control one's responses to environment, and employees must be motivated to work in an open environment rather than that of fear. And whenever an employee works with autonomy in an open and a transparent environment, he or she brings in a lot of creativity, lot of innovation, lot of new ideas. But when you are working in an environment of fear, you do not want to bring in anything new, or you are under the apprehension that you might not be, appreciated, or your views will be not valued. So that fear kind of an emotion should not be there while you are working. Also, autonomy to take decisions will provide added responsibilities, definitely, but it will also tend to increase the employee's creativity, the sense of recognition and self-esteem, and which is very important for an employee's performance. On the other hand, the absence of autonomy can cause employee indifference and poor performance. The second aspect is diversity. Well, repetitive jobs, we all know, make work monotonous, which leads to boredom, and this boredom leads to fatigue, errors, accidents, and absenteeism. So, a job should carry sufficient diversity and variety so that it remains as interesting as always. And job variety or diversity should be given due importance while designing a job. Then, feedback, another important aspect of job design. Every job must have a space of feedback, because it should be an integral part of work. So until and unless we receive proper and timely feedback about our work performance, we will not be able to identify whether there are any gaps in what we are delivering and what is expected to be delivered. So if I do not get a feedback, I am satisfied, okay, I am not aware, I'm unable to identify whether whatever I am doing is up to the mark, whether it is what is desired. So identifying these gaps is very important, because it is only when you identify these gaps, you take some corrective measures, you try to improve. If I do not get a feedback of how I am performing, I am very obvious and very certain to repeat my mistakes. So it is the feedback that will, help me in finding out my mistakes, my errors, and it will help me in taking corrective measures to improve my performance. So that is very important. So when you are designing your jobs, keep a space for feedback. So the second part of the lecture is devoted to issues in job design. So job design is not an easy task, we can say. There are certain issues because the kind of environment we have, the how organizations are changing, or how employees are changing, and how the entire working ecosystem has changed. It has brought in certain issues in job design. So let's learn each one of them. One being remote working. So, due to the pandemic, the offices have shifted from brick and mortar structures to our living rooms, and there is more of work life integration, and what we earlier said of work life balance. So, work life balance has transformed into work life integration, because it is difficult to differentiate between work and life. So, employees are working from the comfort of their homes, but it has made it challenging for the HR to design jobs, because now there is a loss of creativity as employees are not interacting with each other frequently. Then there is also difficulty of developing appraisal systems to appraise the teleworkers or remote workers. Then also the need to formulate a relevant strategy to allocate necessary equipments is also there. So that is why remote working is, it's a challenging affair. The next issue is that of job sharing. Well, job sharing means that alternative to traditional working styles. where two or more individuals, they share the responsibilities of a full-time job. So one job is performed by maybe more than one individual. So they divide the task, the responsibilities, and the compensation according to their mutual consent. So this is a phenomena which is not very common in India, but yes, in Europe and US, job sharing is being taken up. And this option is generally used by women who are on maternity leave or have family and kids to look after, but they also want to continue and they do not want a career gap to be expressed in their resumes. So they are job sharing, so that instead of working for say 6 to 7 hours, they might be working for 2 hours, and only specific activities are being performed instead of the entire job. And secondly, it is also taken up by people who have retired but who still want to work, but for lesser duration. So after attaining certain age, say 60 or 65, they still want to work, they still want to have that routine of work, so they can opt for job sharing. So companies that use job sharing are primarily in the legal, advertising, and financial services sector. Now, though it reduces absenteeism to a certain extent, but the employer faces the problem of prorating remuneration. How to decide on the remuneration and administering benefits between all the workers or all the employees who are performing that particular job. The next issue is flexi working hours or flexible working hours. So these days we all know that organizations allow their employees to work according to the timings, schedules that suit them the best. And there are certainly some 3 or 4 working schedules are there, and individuals can choose any one of them depending upon their comfort and availability. Now it is again good for those individuals who have college or some other engagements, and especially for women workers, we can also say it is a good option, because it gives you, we can say, an autonomy to work as well as take care of your family. And the best part is that unlike telecommunicating or remote working, flexi timings give them a chance to communicate with other employees. But the issue with such pattern is difficulty to maintain the record of the number of hours an employee has worked in each month. So if you're if you do not have a proper system in place, then it becomes difficult. Every time an employee might be working at the night in some days, or he might be working in at the day for some days. So it is difficult to maintain those records for how many hours he worked today and for how many hours he worked the other day. So that maintaining or record keeping becomes difficult. So that is the main issue. Next aspect or next issue is the techno stress. So as the name itself suggests, the techno stress is the stress caused by new technologies in the workplace, mostly by information technology. And advanced information technology, they enable organizations to monitor employee performance even when their worker is not aware. So even when you are working from home, these we can say technologies can monitor you while you are not in the while you are not physically present in the office, but still your performance can be monitored, and this can cause stress among employees. So these new technologies also allow organizations to tie pay to performance, because performance is now electronically being monitored. The next issue is the knowledge work, and we learned about a knowledge work in some emerging trends in HR in one of my previous lectures. So, with the emergence of knowledge work, the designing of work or designing of jobs has also transformed. So, as of now, work is no longer about producing some tangible commodity or some tangible product, but it is more concerned with intangible assets like the human brain, which is a source of knowledge. And assessing and measuring knowledge is very difficult when you have to design a job. So, the shift from traditional work to knowledge work has led managers to change their strategies, patterns of interaction, roles of individuals, HR practices, as well as the organizational structures. So, it is difficult for for the employer also to judge a person's knowledge, to judge or measure the level of knowledge that will be required in performing a certain job. So that is how we are transforming from tangible things to intangible aspect of work, which comes from knowledge working. So that is why it has become designing jobs in the knowledge area is difficult. Then the next issue is the business process re-engineering, or BPR. Well, it emphasizes that organizational structure and the way in which work is structured, it needs to be fundamentally changed to become adaptable and oriented towards continuous change and renewal. So we have witnessed this aspect in the past 2 years, that how due to the pandemic, the organizations, they simply perished, and the ones that survived were the ones who were adaptable, who were the ones who could smell the opportunity in that change, and they changed and renewed themselves. So these companies were the ones that survived through this entire chaos caused by the pandemic. So its competitive advantage is derived from speed, quality, information, customer satisfaction, and decentralized control. So, friends, today we learnt about the various factors that affect job design. We learnt of the three factors: the organizational factors, behavioral factors, and environmental factors that affect job design. And there were certain other subparts to each factor. And we also learnt of some contemporary issues in job designing. Like we learnt of the business process re-engineering, how adaptability must be there. Then we learnt of how knowledge work is changing, how techno stress is causing stress among employees, flexible working hours, remote working, job sharing. So we learnt of all these new issues, new aspects of job designing. So, friends, in the subsequent couple of lectures, we shall learn about some other topics in the domain of human resource management. Thank you.